Hey, so I am going to do a couple other videos today. Can't believe I'm doing them twice in a row. Um, but a couple that came to mind that I wanted to, one is to get some thoughts on other people's opinions, and the other is the one I'm going to speak to now. And this is regarding the idea of relationships and the issue of identifying a complex guy versus just a straight up bad guy. So, as an INTJ female, I definitely found myself attracted to the puzzle pieces of the other a potential partner that I found interesting. There was depth there, there was interest there, and lots of times that can lead you into the quagmire of a straight up bad dude. And some tips that I thought might be relevant to us in our community regarding how to potentially identify the two. So, the first thing I would bring up is the complex guy. And I'd like to give it almost a shout out to the fellow INTJs out there that are male, as well as those in similar rare categories that suffer with having issues with having the the normal type of interactions with the a potential partner. And I'm saying this one particularly in the opposite sex type of relationship, because I can't speak to same sex. Love to hear other people's thoughts if they are in same sex and if there are similarities. However, complex guys, it's difficult because they're hard to read, and bad guys can come across as a similar way, but they don't have the substance behind them to back that up. Complex guys, it's also difficult because complex guys aren't necessarily hunting down the girl. They're not trying to hit on you overtly or make things obvious and woo you, where that can be difficult for us INTJ females because we are, for myself at least, was completely clueless in picking up signs unless it was incredibly obvious. And that usually meant it was a bad guy that was doing the hitting on. So complex men, I think they're fantastic. The depth that is there is like the layers of the onion that are interesting and relevant. The thing that comes across with them in that package is similar to what us INTJ females are, is that we have a little bit of emotional, I don't want to say baggage necessarily, but we are more complex. So therefore, there's more things that you have to kind of pick away at. And if we are looking through the lens of the larger population and what other relationships are like, where they're easy and breezy, you don't necessarily get that with a complex individual. Plus, a complex individual may also come with the added bonus of some mental illness. And I am not saying that in a bad way, because I've spoken before, I have anxiety. And that is not a bad thing. It doesn't change who you are. It just makes it so that there is different measures in how we interpret the world. And so I think the complexity of a complex guy, that if we're looking and finding that attractive, I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing at all. I think what comes to make that a potential match is patience and understanding and removing the ego and immediate response to things that could be potentially seen as a red flag. Again, with that though, go with your gut, because instincts we have in spades, and we should be ensuring that we are using that to protect ourselves. And so there's that fine line, but I feel that with our gut instincts, we know deep down which ones are worth going and looking into further, and actually going and sticking our neck out and putting a little bit more effort into seeing what's there instead of making one pursue the other. Because I feel that with INTJs, we're a little bit more egalitarian on what that looks like. I mean, by all means, it's always nice to be treated and courted, but I think there is opportunity for either side to come and meet more in the middle rather than one necessarily being the pursuer. So I think the main thing for that is trusting your intuition, as well as trusting what you are interested in and why. And if also you start automatically running for the hills over one thing that went wrong, kind of looking into that and seeing whether that was something to do with an internal bruise, like potentially that was from before. A lot of us INTJs have some internal trauma from past relationships, platonic or romantic, and doing a little bit of introspection on that. By no means do I say ever stay in a relationship that is making you feel that it is not appropriate or that is something that's not right for you. But that's where we get to use our skill of being able to make a decision and cut things off. The other one is the bad guy. So bad guys are definitely the wolf in sheep's clothing. I've had my fair share over the years. The main thing that I would suggest that to look out for is the fact that do they speak and act more as a narcissistic tendency. So narcissism usually plays itself out as extremely charming, and they'll give you a little bit of depth. They'll usually talk about some sort of trauma they've had in their lives. They will pay attention to you, and then as soon as they have you opened up to a little bit of an extent, they will shut down and start using manipulative tools in order to keep you basically on the hook. Now, for us INTJs, we find that extremely difficult, because if we've already gone so far as to be somewhat invested in that person, we are not usually as quick to jump ship. We'll want to make sure that we have exhausted what we feel there is for potential and then decide what we're going to do. But with these bad guys in the interim, they will press that intimacy button, I guess, a little bit quicker than, say, the complex guy, because they want to get to the rush of having an intimate relationship without actual substance. So that is a huge flag, where if you're noticing that you are being pushed into something that isn't comfortable, where it's moving too fast, and not just our type of fast where we are a little bit slower to get into relationships, but in general fast. If your friends are noticing that it's a little bit too fast for the things that are progressing in this relationship, that's something to look into. And also a massive flag I found for myself is fellas that are bad guys. They, even though you can talk about how you can read a person by the company they keep, a lot of times they've thrown the wool over the eyes of their buddies, or their buddies don't want to know what is going on necessarily. So if any of their friends come forward and say, look, this guy is not a good guy, and the guy that you're interested in is trying to fervently state otherwise, believe the friend. This is not a complex guy. This is just a bad guy. And that guy, the friend guy, is trying to tell you without breaking bro code that it is not good. Something else is probably happening that you do not know, and you deserve more than to put up with that. So anyways, that's my kind of extended one on that piece. I love to hear your comments. And as always, if you have a video request, especially on any of these dating things, just put it in the comment section with video request at the beginning. Thanks.